That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
No tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering.
Fairly learned here.
Welcome to the MOTN-Trospective. This is the Masters of the Nerdiverse presents Introspective, where we take a deep dive on one of pop culture's most popular principles, one of the most popular, I would say, properties, and go over everything that particular property is involved with. May it be comics, movies, video games. If it has it on the title, then we're talking about it in a giant macro view. We are Galactus staring over the earth, ready to consume our delicious meal of pop culture. I'm, of course, your host, Mike G. And with me, as always, is the most exuberant host.
Welcome, kiddos. We're going to have a good time today.
Did you ever see that movie Clown? Where the guy puts on the clown suit and gets possessed?
Oh, that's by the guy who made Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah, that movie's freaking wrecked, dude. I love it.
Yeah, I know. It slaps. It slaps and claps and daps.
Oh, snikes, dog. Can you imagine you put on like a Wolverine costume, you just start turning into a gruffy Wolverine, dog?
Man, that would make slutty Halloween costumes way more powerful than they already are.
Yeah, man. It's like the underrated Halloween Season of the Witch. That movie is underrated. That movie is awesome.
That movie is actually quite nice. Same for like, God, what is it? Is it Season of the Witch the same movie where they make the deal with the devil in the very end with the book? Or am I thinking of something else entirely?
Season of the Witch is where the corporation plans to reinvigorate Samhain and pretty much murders children all over the world.
Okay.
With the crazy masks.
I'm thinking of something else. There's some kind of movie where these girls are accused of witchcraft, and at the very end, they make a deal with the goat-headed devil to actually practice witchcraft or something like that.
So you're thinking of the Vivitch.
The Vitch, yeah, the Dutch, the kind of Eastern European way of going Vitch.
Would you like to live deliciously? I'm gonna say that.
Also, a really good movie.
Awesome movie, and I plan to say that on the next date I'm on. I'm just gonna be like, "Would you like to live deliciously?"
But Mike, we're getting sidetracked today. We're here to talk about it.
We are continuing the introspective. This is part 2. This is chapter 2 of our deep dive into Stephen King's classic It. If you haven't heard the first episode, I definitely would advise you to, because we talked all about the 90s miniseries. But this time, we're going to be reviewing part 1 of the 2017 motion picture film directed by Andy Muschietti. Screenplay by Cary Fukunaga, Bill Skarsgård, Finn Wolfhard. You know, the remix, dude. This is a remix to the source material, man. That's how I see it.
There is a lot of really good things going on in this movie in general.
This movie surprised me, man.
Oh, hell yeah, it did. When I first saw it in the theaters, I was actually kind of blown back by how well it was done.
You know what? I know why, because based on our last conversation, this fits more with the book than the miniseries does in a lot of ways. It
does. 100% it does.
Especially with its depiction of Pennywise.
So let's just kind of preface the conversation going forward with that real quick. So this movie does go align more so with the book in general compared to the miniseries. Mm-hmm. But there are it does change the plot around. It does change certain events, character motivations. So on and so forth. That's just a given. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we really get a better look of what I think is the really best representation canonically of what Pennywise is so far in film.
It's pretty much, and this is something I've been thinking about all day. Like, I know we had to record today. And the thing that's stuck in my head that I really want to talk about is that in the miniseries, you can rationalize what Pennywise is. It's, in your head, it's still a human clown that may be having something else going on. That's the way that I feel that Tim Curry played it. He was still Tim Curry. Yeah. But the way Bill Skarsgård plays it is it really feels like it's a creature wearing a human suit.
That's the thing. So throughout most of this movie, in parts 1 and 2, honestly, I've been rewatching part 2 to kind of get things going along for this kind of review in general. This Pennywise is more so a creature. It's the entity it's supposed to truly represent in the end that is trying to facsimile a clown without really understanding why clowns are entertaining in the first place.
Mm-hmm. I totally concur with that. Like I said, it's literally the alien in Men in Black piloting a human and thinking what humans should be like, even though this thing has existed in Derry since the 1800s or something like that. I mean, so
kind of. It's really hard.
Since the beginning of time, if we want to really get deep into it.
That's the better representation from the book if we're going to be kind of more going along that line of thought. But yes.
Man, Bill Skarsgård, man, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I have to follow up Tim Curry. What do I do? Same thing Heath Ledger had to do when he had to follow up Jack Nicholson. What do? Right? You push the envelope. You take it in a completely different direction.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Bill's performance in this film is exemplary just because he's not human, man. Like, even in the initial start of this film, and we can kind of break it down from here, and we'll definitely go through the characters again in their newer iterations, but I want to talk about the beginning of this film, where, and I played this in my head juxtaposed to the 90s miniseries, where Tim Curry's Pennywise is personable, right? He's kind of charismatic. He's luring him in. Bill's Pennywise is distant. it's disejected from the conversation.
Yes.
And there's moments where it just trails off. And Georgie, like anybody else, would say, yeah, it's time to go, man. You know what I mean? It's super time to go. Whatever's going on in here is freaking me out.
Yeah, and that's the best thing. There's some trivia that's really fun for this movie. The first time the rest of the kids, the Losers Club, actually ran into Pennywise on set was during one of my favorite scenes in the film, which is during the old kind of pre-recorded film scene, and Pennywise leaps out a projector screen. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
It was all over the freaking trailers when this came out. I remember that much.
Yeah.
And that was apparently the first time these kids ran into Bill Skarsgård is just in character without being prefaced what's going to happen.
That's one of the things I love about movie magic, quote unquote, is the electricity on the set when a character walks out in costume, right? Because a lot of times this stuff is so hush hush that these kids didn't probably get to see the breakdown and the blueprints of what they thought they wanted it to look like. It just was one day and they all stopped what they were doing and watched Bill walked out. It was like, holy crap, that's terrifying. You know what I mean? It's like
it's fantastic.
It's beautiful. I would love to be a fly on that wall. You know?
One of my favorite designs of this Pennywise is honestly the huge watermelon head he has.
Yeah, the huge watermelon head, the costuming, the simple white and red, which is the tagline colors for the series, but faded.
It harkens to a much older clown.
100%, where Pennywise looked like he could have been in Barnum and Bailey's that weekend, right? Where
he could have been on the Dick Van Dyke Show,
right? But Bill's Pennywise looked like it was out of a photograph, you know?
Yeah,
like a dingy black and white that this thing came to life in, and he completely sells it, man. Like once again, as it should be, it steals every scene it's in.
It's just so fantastic. But there's a lot of things that are really fantastic in this film, like the sound design, the music track, the cinematography, just the way everything's kind of advanced since the miniseries. Like cinematography and directional sense has evolved so much, and it's just kind of obvious here in this film as well. You compare the two. You know that sound of the that's in this movie?
Yeah.
That is perfect. It is the perfect it sound.
It's the wind up, right? It's the perfect tension builder based upon what's happening in the scene. And one of my favorite scenes, and one of the scenes that wasn't caught until way after the film, is when Ben is in the library and he's looking through the old articles, and you see the librarian in the background stop what she's doing and watch him freak out, and it's out of focus, where you can see this old lady turn and just like creepily ear at him. And it's one of the things that you don't catch the first time. And it's like, man, that builds so much tension.
It truly does. And it's like the best thing to do is just to give subtle little hints here and there, very tiny stuff that just makes things so much more fun.
Absolutely. And my major question for this movie, and I think I already know the answer, but is this movie for children?
Oh, hell no.
No, right?
No.
Is this movie for preteens? Would you let your tween child see this?
I would probably put a hard limit probably around 13, 14, because that's like when kids are generally more like, oh, fuck you, Dad. I'm going to like go watch an R-rated movie myself. Whoa.
You know.
Like a 13-year-old talks. Right. Anywho, I think like a good preteen or teenage movie would be best for this because it kind of fits more so with the protagonists, to be honest.
Right.
I think at that point, this movie isn't like so gross or gory or too much for any kid that's like in their teenage or blossoming years of adulthood to really watch.
And I'm right there with you. It's the Freddy Krueger effect, right? Where Freddy's too scary for kids, 13 down, but 13 up, he says funny jokes and everybody laughs, right?
He says bitch 20 times in the movie.
Bon appetit, bitch. Whereas this film, it dances that line between, yes, this would terrify a child, but there's certain scenes like the rock fight scene that's so, endearing and so fueled by just teen fun. That it's
God, the rock fight is so hilarious too. I'm sorry to cut, but it's just so kind of funny because they just kind of go, "Rah! Primal rage!" And
Ben roars at them, dude. I love it. Ben roars at him,
chucking rocks at each other. I think it was Richie who raged, actually. But
Richie was the one who was like, "Rock fight!" and the metal starts playing.
That's right. That was hilarious. I actually laughed when that happened in the movie theater.
I thought it was awesome, and I love. One thing I love about this series is I love the moment where the Losers Club galvanizes. That's my favorite part of every version of this series, from the book to the miniseries to this, is when the Losers Club galvanizes. It's like Avengers Assemble in a weird way, where it's like, okay, this is the core team. They fought back the bullies, and now they're united in their nerdiness. You know what I mean?
So let's go over some more specific stuff as well. What do you think of Henry Bowers in this film?
Henry is interesting. Henry, in comparison to the miniseries, because that's the closest mental connection I have, is a bit more goofy villain than he was in the miniseries.
I would argue the opposite. I think in the original miniseries, Henry's kind of like a jokey character, like he's just this bad.
You know why? You know what it is? Is that in this film, they gave him one humanizing moment. And it's not necessarily a positive humanizing moment. And it's the moment where his dad confronts him.
Yeah.
And that's stuck in my head. You know what I mean?
And shoots at his feet, which is,
Jesus.
Stunning parenting right there.
You see, boys? All it takes is a little fear for a paper man to crumble.
That's such a good line, but oh my
gosh. Rough. You get a clean picture of this kid's life in that moment, right?
Yeah, no joke.
Any father,
he's also a cop, so just like,
ultra authority times 1,000, right? And ever since then, you knew Henry was down a dark road, man, because he made him look bad in front of his boys, man.
Yeah, and things kind of culminate, don't they?
Yes, they do. Kill them all. Kill them all.
Kill them all. Kill them all.
What I like about that scene is that is playing in the background, and you can barely hear it. They're just talking about, did you know if you go down to the river, we all float? Kids, understand. I'm like, what is the hallucination's already going before he walks in the room.
Yeah, it's just like the very subtle mind pressures of Pennywise that makes it so great in general.
Yeah.
But what else should we talk about? I mean, the entire Losers Club has changed dramatically as well.
Yeah, let's go down the list. I want to give it up for the actor Jaden Martell who played Ben.
Oh my God, that was actually, I think Ben was really well done.
Ben was very well done. Ben was very realistic.
He was just shy, inner, withdrawn, fat kid, Newtown, no one likes me. He portrayed that super well.
I'm sorry. Jeremy Ray Taylor played Ben. I was looking at.
Okay.
Jaden played Bill, but Ben is my favorite in this film, and he's my favorite loser. Almost right close to Richie, but we'll talk about Richie. But Ben, he's just perfect high school shot. The new kid on the block. Speaking of new kids on the block, I love that scene where all you hear is "stand tough," and you're like, "Yo!" She held his whole career in his hands, and she was like, "Nah, you cool, man."
That was a really cute scene.
That's one of my favorite parts of the movie. You can see in his face, like, "Come on, man."
But I will say as well, Ben's like, oh my god, like the way they had the boiler kid with his head missing to scare Ben was his first introduction to the fear setting. That was really cool. I did not see it coming.
It was very Silent Hill. It was very Silent Hill, the way that thing came down the stairs. And one thing one knock against this movie, it has a very repetitive fear trigger where you hear the crescendoing music, silence stops, and then it goes, ah! And then whatever is the fear turn just starts chasing you. You know what I mean?
True.
Every single scare is that. Right, it's a charge. It's a slow walk. You know what I mean?
I 100% agree, and I kind of like it that way. It's like it's classic at the same time, just different enough to make it kind of enjoyable.
Absolutely, and that whole library scene with Ben is just eerie, man. You know what I mean? Looking through the old papers and remembering a better time when you had to go to the library to get information. Children, we had to actually do that no more. And Ben's infatuation with, of course, Beverly was a bit more fleshed out in this film. But then again, in a way, their relationship was kind of overclouded by Bill's relationship with her.
Yeah.
In a weird way. Because we all know how that outcome turns out. But in that way, we can segue to Sophia Lilla's.
Well, actually, I want to make this kind of clear. What do you prefer in the end, the new or the old Ben? I want to do this for every character, by the way, too.
You mean in regards to character progression?
Just in general, like how do you feel, like in general, as a lump sum?
New Ben versus old Ben. I prefer the kids over the adults almost 90% of the time.
Well, of course, but like I'm talking, I know
what you're saying.
1980s versus 20 teens.
Okay, just want to make sure. Okay, I prefer this Ben over the older Ben.
Okay,
because he's just a bit more wholesome. He's just a bit more sincere.
I can agree.
You know, there's a sincerity to this kid. The way he's looking at Beth. Every young kid has looked at someone like that before. You can just see it in his eyes. The acting chops on this kid is amazing. He really sells it. And nothing against the Ben in the 90s miniseries. That kid did a very good job too. You know what I mean? At the time. But is it fair to really compare 90s sensibilities against this more modern acting take? You know what I mean? It can be because,
It can be. It just does. I guess it is situational, like you said. It is very situational, depending on like the generational difference and the expectations that are different between each culture. Yeah.
Yeah, because effects wise, I'll be honest, there's certain things that this miniseries did better than they did with this.
True.
It kind of flip flops. With that, let's double back
to Georgie.
You want to talk about Georgie? Georgie. We all float too. We all float too.
I kind of prefer the previous Georgie from the 80s, honestly.
You mean the 80s Georgie to the new Georgie?
Yes.
Yeah. This Georgie didn't get much time to breathe in this movie.
Oh, of course not. No.
But Georgie can't. That's the whole point, I guess. He literally has to float.
The Georgie scene is a lot more gruesome in this one, though.
Oh yeah, it's a murder mystery. You got Grandnana across the street, barely watching with the cat. I thought that all that could have been left out.
Well, it does drive home though from the very beginning that there's something wrong with the adults in Derry.
Well, we're going to talk about the adults in Derry, damn it. Jeez. Georgie in this movie is very kind of kid actor. And I hate to say it, he kind of drags all the other child performances down. And I don't want to put that because he's the youngest child actor, but it's very, don't you love me anymore kind of acting. You know what I mean? Yeah, my best friend, Bill.
It's fair. It's fair.
Yeah, maybe I'm nitpicking a little bit.
A little bit.
Nicholas Pickles-ing. But I don't know, man. I still prefer the miniseries Georgie to this Georgie. Speaking of Georgie, let's talk about Bill. Good old Bill.
And Bill, he is, I think, much more preferable in the new version because he's just so much more fragile.
Yeah. He didn't feel like a leader in this film. Like Bill in the miniseries felt more like a leader, like Raphael. It didn't like the Leonardo, right? Hey, come on, guys, we got to galvanize, we got to do it. This Bill was barely holding it together. You know what I mean? Because he had the most, I would say, severe child trauma just from the loss of his brother. And there's a scene with him and his father, which begins the cycle of what's wrong with the parents in Derry, where his son has built this elaborate, Goldberg machine, with all the water and pipes to kind of break down how Georgie could have fell into another pipe or something like that. His dad is like, man, I don't have time for any of this, man. Don't let your mom see it. Take this stuff down. He's ultra dead. Get over it. And it's like, your son is grieving too.
It's a very hard catch of like, you want your kid to move on for bringing this stuff up in general to, you have to understand where they're coming from. So it's like, it's a bit of a complicated situation, I would say. He's
not the worst parent in this movie by far. Bill's father, not by far. But
Eddie's mom takes that for me. Jesus Christ.
Oh no. In this particular movie, Beverly's dad takes it for me.
I mean, he's just an obvious villain. That's just a given. And that's very fair. That's a given.
And yeah.
But for like standby parents, Eddie's mom is like the weirdest and the worst for me.
You know what the thing about Stanley's mom? It hits too close to home because I know mothers like that. Like legit. Not movie theater, blown out of proportions, but I know moms like that.
Yeah.
And you feel bad for your boy, man. You're like, you got to go home, dog.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Sucks, bro. Yeah. Like, if you want to spend the night, I'll ask my mom, dude. I get it. But Bill's motivation in this movie is the clearest cut. I want to find out what happened to Georgie. That's pretty much it. And the moment the cerebral attacks start happening, with him starting to kind of get those fear inducers. And then it made me think, like, this is happening to literally every child in Derry. We're just pinpointing on the Losers Club.
No wonder they're all so screwy.
Yeah, you got to think about, and macro, right? Like, every single kid from 0 to probably 15 is going through this right now. And it's like, Pennywise is insanely OP, dude. He's crazy powerful.
Like, does Pennywise follow the cultural norms for adulthood? Was he like preying on 13-year-olds only and below whenever he was like, because 13-year-olds were adults at some point? Or was it 18-year-olds forevermore? Because that's what a true adult age is like.
Well, I think what it is that imagination plus fear equals delicious. And the older you get, in some cases, your imagination weans. So I think, like, he wasn't really going after Bauer in the Hot Boys. You know what I'm saying? He was going after the little ones because they had the active imaginations that he can just run rampant in. Like a reverse Freddy Krueger. Or the ambulance that's chasing Pennywise down my street right now. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Da-ba-ba-da. Dead kids are here.
Wowzers. There's an ambulance. So I think Bill in this movie, his stutter was on point.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's always a hard thing as an actor to get right. I think that he got it the lightest in a weird way based upon I would say the hallucinations. But no, Richie got it the lightest. Richie didn't really get any hallucinations in this film.
That's very, very true.
Richie was like, am I the only one not seeing this shit?
He got like a few things, and that's really about it.
He got beep, Doug,
I mean, they kind of cover more of that in this sequel, but that's not really here nor there right now.
I haven't seen that yet. I'm very excited to watch that.
I've been watching bits and pieces so far throughout the past few days. I gotta admit, it's not awful.
Hold it.
It's not that bad, like so far. So I'm kind of curious what people saying it's bad about.
We will
Anywho,
see. Let's talk about Richie.
Yeah,
Finn
let's go
Wolfhard.
dive into Richie. Seth Green versus Finn Wolfhard, which is interesting.
Which is interesting. I kind of like Finn more.
Seth brings this classic tropiness to Richie that's actually kind of accurate of how I imagine Richie would be. Not so much like a smart-ass cool loser, but more so a geeky, scrawny, kind of a smart mouth guy.
Yeah, and the thing is that I think Finn looks more like Richie in my head, but Seth acts more like Richie in my head. Does that make sense?
That's a good way to go about that, actually.
Because my problem with Finn is that his jokes are not 90s jokes. They're modern jokes. Because the audience is not going to laugh at a 90s joke, right?
Well, I would agree with that. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, his jokes are very contemporary. Did you know that Derry was a beaver trapping state? Still is, right, boys? You know, like, that's some... that's some
bullshit.
That's some Bill Burr shit. You know what I'm saying? That's some Bill Burr shit. You know, so his sense of humor was intact, and his bravery was intact, because Richie is one of the more braver of the Losers Club. You know what I mean? I kind of miss that they didn't have the movie theater scene where he spills the drinks on Bowers and the boys. You know what I mean? I wish there was something like that more in this film. But Richie is also the one that stands up to Bill and says, you know, can we just not do this anymore? Like, people are dead, dude. Do you want to die? And it's just like, I know that's kind of manufactured movie, you know, and, you know, clashing so they can come back stronger at the end. But I think Finn Wolfhard did a good job in this role. That's why I prefer him over Seth, you know?
I mean, he did do a good job, and I really think he portrayed Richie really well, but yeah, my preference is still Seth. That's just probably how it's going to be.
I hear it. I understand. And you're not wrong, because I think Seth does an amazing job in that role.
So did you see in the Richie beep beep scene, they had a Pennywise clown in one of the background, the Tim Curry clown in one of the background shots?
Is it true that they had the Saw clown hidden there as well?
I think they did. I have to go back and check. I didn't have that eagle of an eye, but
OG Pennywise is back there.
Yeah, old classic Pennywise is back there, which is kind of a really cool Easter egg for anyone.
I would kill for that prop.
I would kind of get rid of that prop as fucking quick as possible.
Yeah, man. I remember I was at Things from Another World in Universal City, California. Shout outs to Universal City. And it's a comic store on the Universal City Walk. And my dad was like, it was my birthday. My dad was like, pick anything out the store. And I saw a replica silver-plated lament configuration from Hellraiser. And I pointed at it, but then I had the Mal from Firefly moment where I just was like, oh, no. I kind of don't want that in the house.
Yeah.
You know?
Yesterday, I was looking at my backyard, and this neighbor kid really close by starts bouncing up and down their fucking trampoline, and guess what? This, 8-year-old girl had a freaking Chucky doll from freaking Bride of Chucky scene,
nope.
All fucked up face, a knife in hand. It's like,
nope.
I'm knocking on my goddamn door.
You want to lose that kid? I'm a good shot. I'm messing around and, throw a dart at that thing.
I've practiced my drop kick for fucking
for a reason, only for Chucky.
Only for Chucky.
Just for Chucky, man. Oh, man. Speaking of redheads, let's talk about Beverly.
Beverly. Your
Sophia
hair like
Lilith.
winter fire. Her scene is her haunting scene is pretty good in this remake.
It's very Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Glaciers of blood, my man. Gazers of infinite plasma. This young lady does a very good job. And she adds another foil to Beverly that is not as fragile as Beverly was in the miniseries.
That is pretty interesting because previously, canonically, I see Beverly more as like a kind of meek, weak, doesn't want anyone to talk to her kind of girl because she's used to just being kind of abused. Uh-huh. But in this one, it's more like she's kind of a rebel without a cause.
Yeah, she's a firefly in this movie.
I shouldn't have said that. She's a rebel and doesn't give a damn about the consequences, more so.
Yeah, she's more independent in that way, I would say. Which I really like. Because my problem with Beverly in the old films was that she was too kind of broken. You know what I'm saying? Mm. But, you know, even the scenes, like I said, my worst parent in this movie is her father. And those scenes with her and her father is just so disturbing to me. Especially the scene where she has to cut her hair. And she's like, you know, I'm going to burn scalding hot water in the place you just touched me. You know what I mean? Like, you know, House on Haunted Hill mode. But she really kind of sells that, you know, summer kids, you know, experience. You know what I mean? She, you know, and that's why I love, like, they actually got kids to be in this movie.
And
you know what I mean?
There's that rock diving scene where all the kids are much more interested in Beverly than they were in the miniseries.
Well, yeah, and you get that sense. It's you know what it is? It's the Sandlot it's the Sandlot pool scene.
Yes, it
you
is. It's very much prepubescent boys kind of realizing, hey, there's a girl who doesn't have as much clothes on as usual in my typical environment. This is really, really cool.
What do I do now?
Exactly. Besides, what do? I stare.
I just stargaze, and her head turns a millimeter, and they're all like, oh, you know, you're not doing anything.
That makes sense. But also, Beverly has some interesting moments, like when she's kidnapped by Pennywise. Okay, there's two things to that scene. One, Pennywise the dancing clown scene is hilarious.
It's the best scene in the movie.
It's what?
It's the best scene in the movie.
Yeah, it became
I
a
love
meme
it.
for a little bit. It was hilarious.
It's so dumb. I love it. It's over the
exactly.
top. Yeah.
And then there's the Deadlight scene, which I did not see coming, and I kind of really liked it actually. Where Pennywise, his eyes roll in the back of his head, his maw gapes and gapes and gapes open, and then you see the three tricolor deadlights spinning around each other.
I didn't think they were going to pull that until the second chapter.
Agreed.
So when that popped, I was like, "Oh, they're just going there." Let's get into some interstellar horror, man. Let's rock.
Yeah.
You know, in the scene where Beverly fights her father off and kills him, pretty much. She killed him, right?
I don't think she killed him. I think she just hurt him really damn badly.
He was video game dead. Like, you fall, and then just a pool of blood just starts to pool. Like, oh, that guy's gone.
I don't think he was dead.
Wasn't it? Didn't Richie run in the house and he was still laying on the ground in that puddle of blood?
I'm not sure about that. I'd have to double check. I might be distracted.
That dude looked toasted, man. But even if, she did not go to jail, so he must have been okay. You know what I mean? She just went off to live with family somewhere else. But
let's get on to little tiny baby Eddie.
Oh, Eddie.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll put it back on you.
I kind of like how Eddie in this version of the film is more, in this version of the story, is more feisty. Yeah. He's like a chihuahua.
Yeah. Eddie is very feral.
He's straight up like a chihuahua. He's tiny, he's weak, but he's got the biggest bark. Sorry. Yeah, man. And he not afeared of nothing. You know what I mean? He's a unorthodox character because he's afraid of everything. He's talking about gray water and all types of crazy, conspiracy theories, lepers. But he's also, has a heart of a lion in a weird way. You know what I mean? And I like that. I like it better than the Eddie in these miniseries. I agree. And I also think that Eddie has some better moments in this film as well. The leper scene is, it's so awful.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Oh, man. Oh, that was so good.
Him standing up to his mother,
and him kind of fighting back around Henry Bowers and whatnot as well.
Absolutely. Him confronting Pennywise with a broken arm.
Whew, man.
He took that broken arm like a champ, dude.
Oh my God. Yeah, he got screwed with that.
My man did a no-sell Mick Foley from the top of the hill of the cell dropped through the floor.
I mean, to be fair, my favorite line is still, now I got to kill this fucking clown.
I was waiting to get there. He's like, man, you put me in danger. You got me down in here. But you know what? Now I guess I got to kill this fucking clown. Richie, you're a beast. I love it, man.
Yeah, it was really great. But anyway, yeah, Eddie's great. I loved him. He was such a feisty little chihuahua or like a Pomeranian or some kind of toy dog with a lot of bark.
Yeah, man. He's the friend that grabs the brick. You know what I mean? Like if there's a Donnybrook, he's the friend that comes out of nowhere with a brick. You're like, oh snap. Here comes Eddie. Oh Lord, he coming.
So then we got to get to the typical character who was probably one of the better ones, and don't let it get to your head, is Mike. Mike Hanlon.
Mike is the best. Mike, the name itself.
Don't wear it out.
the name itself demands attention. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Chosen Jacobs. What did you think about this Mike?
I like this Mike way more.
Mm-hmm.
I think the thing is, this Mike has more opportunity to show himself, given the opportunity compared to the miniseries Mike. And honestly, miniseries Mike is more in line with what I had across the book idea of Mike.
Mm-hmm.
The book idea of Mike is what I see in the miniseries Mike.
Mm-hmm.
But this Mike is more interesting because he's bringing a sense of like, I don't know, physical superiority compared to like the nerdish kind of bookish Mike in the miniseries. He's got more agency, and I kind of like that, honestly, in this one.
I like the character growth of this Mike. His opening scene is him having to put the sheep down. And he hesitates because that's freaking horrifying to have to do that at what?
It really shows
13?
that this Mike's more mature than the rest of the loser group.
He really is. And, his uncle, I'm not sure, his guardian.
Uncle. Yeah,
uncle gives him the speech like, hey, you're either on this side of the wall or you're on the other side. And further in the film, after Eddie is carted away by his mom, you see him just doing it. Like he just matures over the course of the summer so fast that by the end of it, he's your rock, man. He's the one who defeats Bowers. He knocks him down into the well, fights him straight up. You know what I mean?
That fight was rough.
Yeah, Bowers had it coming, dude.
Mike had some interesting scenes of one when he's getting hit by Bowers and the boys. He looks over in the river and sees Pennywise like eating a little arm, going, "Hi there."
That's a meme too. That was a meme too.
That was
with the arm waving it like hi.
That was such a good ass meme. Also, Mike's horror, his terror, is really, really gruesome.
It's strong. One of my favorite scenes in this movie is when Mike gets his shot at Pennywise at the end, and Pennywise's maw opens, and it's just burnt arms grabbing out of his maw. That was super cool effect. That was very visually stunning.
That was a really good effect. But man, Mike had he had it rough. Which
Mike,
it kind of leads into his character as an adult, like both in the miniseries and the book, and soon to be discovered in the part 2.
He is the sentinel, right? He's the gatekeeper.
Yes.
Of Derry, and it's not until the very end of the story that he gets to let that go. But he's always the historian. He's always the gatekeeper. He's really the one that out between Ben and Mike, and they kind of split it a bit more in this movie. In the miniseries, it was Mike who was kind of the historian in a bit of a way, but in this film, Ben and Mike kind of tag team that.
They really did kind of like go back and forth here and there. Ben is more so the historian, and Mike's more so the lore catcher. He's telling things people say by mouth. Ben's going people's written down.
Absolutely. And I think it's a good tag team of, like you said, lore versus history.
I don't know why. I said lore catcher, and I just immediately think of
Dreamcatcher?
Yeah.
With the shit weasels?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just like, I don't know. It's stuck to me.
Another Stephen King film.
I forget that's a Stephen King film half the time I watch it, honestly.
This is for one person in the audience, and you know who you are.
It's for himself.
You Duddits. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. So, Mike is great. I love Mike, and there's more to go about with Mike in the movie. I'll say this much already. Movie Mike and film series Mike are very different people already.
100,000%.
Like, you have not seen Chapter 2, but man, they are completely different adults.
Oh man, I cannot wait. I've heard so much about this movie.
I got like a It movie pack off of Sony PlayStation Network. It's probably on Walmart and everything else like that. It's both movies, Chapter 1 and 2 right now for $20.
Nice. Very nice.
Would
Very
recommend.
Nice. And let's talk about the unsung hero. Always the odd duck out. Let's talk about Stanley. Stanley, Doug.
God, poor fucking
Wyatt Olaf. You know,
his terror is the most confusing. Like, just odd thing.
Always the bridesmaid and never the bride.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, his terror is dumb because all his terror is just Mama. You ever seen Mama?
No, but I know what you're talking about. I know it's a movie.
It's a horror movie where these two kids are orphaned in the wilderness and they're raised by a malevolent spirit. And the malevolent spirit looks exactly like his tormentor in this movie. What does his tormentor represent? Is it just represent that painting? Is that it?
It's just the painting. Like it's a kid fear, which makes sense in context, but man, it's fucking dumb compared to the other kids.
And the problem is that everyone's fear is tied into a personality trait.
Yeah.
Richie's fear is legit of clowns. So what does he get? He gets a ton of clowns. Ben's imagination runs away with him in those articles. What's his fear? One of the kids who got, exploded. And of course, Bill's fear is his dead, little brother. What does Stanley get? He gets Mama. Yeah. It's just weird. Why do they keep doing this to Stan? And the thing is that the kid who plays Stanley does a bang up job.
He does a really good job.
Yeah.
I prefer this Stanley much more than the past one, but man, Stanley gets like really good. And also I love his diatribe in the synagogue during his it's not his bat mitzvah. It's the ceremony where he's officially reading from the Torah. I forgot what it is exactly.
I don't want to mess it up. Yeah.
Anywho, it's like he gets a really, really good dialogue scene, and he just like walks off after dropping the mic. It's like like this Stanley.
He's actually one of the better actors of the Losers Club. This
he is.
kid,
100%.
he is 100%. It's just a shame that he's Stanley. Because Stanley doesn't get a lot of meat in the books. Stanley doesn't get a lot of meat in the miniseries, and sadly, this kid is working with every sentence he gets. You know what I mean?
I'll also say this. I think Stanley got screwed over in both series, but in a well done manner that's true to the book. So
it is what it is. You have to be faithful to the source material. Stanley is not the most interesting character, but he's still an interesting character. Yep. Compared to other works of fiction. So we salute you, Stanley, and I can't wait to talk about you not being in It Chapter 2.
Yeah, for a brief moment. The kid actor gets more screen time than the adult actor, Stanley.
That's amazing.
Look, in It Chapter 2 so far, all I've seen is Kid Stanley.
Yeah, man. The actor showed up. He did his scenes. He went to Del Taco afterwards.
So I hope there is a part I just got past before starting this podcast today with you. It's in It Chapter 2. It's essentially a build up to a reference to one of the scenes in the miniseries. That's one of my favorites.
Okay. See, you're hyping me up, man. Because I have to watch this at some point between the next couple of weeks because we have something big coming up that I cannot wait for. But exactly. I have to watch this before we next record. So you're really building me up, Buttercup, man.
Watch it tonight. Why not?
Watch it tonight. In retrospect, how do you feel overall about the 2017 iteration of It? This is not a remake, mind you. This is a reiteration of
a retelling.
A retelling of a bestseller.
I think it was really very much well done.
It was very well done. Like I said, I was surprised by a lot of this movie.
I would definitely make people watch this probably right after the miniseries, honestly. Right after the miniseries. I'm like, okay, here, watch this miniseries. It was really, really good. It made a lot of horror movie stereotypes come true, and it kind of pushed a lot of things for horror movies in general. Now, watch this retelling. It's really freaking good for a lot of the same reasons.
It's really like, how do you digest it as a whole? And I'm going to talk about this again in our final closings of the entire franchise. But kind of like you said, you're absolutely right. What's the watch order? The watch order is watch this film, watch the sequel, Chapter 2, then watch the miniseries, and then if you're interested, read the book.
I disagree.
Disagree?
I'm
would you-
kind
how
of
would
in
you lay it out?
reverse. I'm saying read the book first because it's just the better material.
Mhm.
Then watch the miniseries. Then watch chapter 1 and 2.
Okay, fair enough. We're very different on that. Yeah,
Yeah, because I think honestly the book's just like it's just godly. It's amazing.
but the book is also like 400 pages.
On audiobook, it's 50 hours long.
Audio, audible.com. You need
Oh.
to holler at us, man.
God, the Audible version is so well acted. Holy hell. They got voice actors that give a damn. They're good.
You hear that, Audible? Masters of the Nerdiverse first.
God, I would just like, I would do anything. I would like read and give an excerpt of freaking Twilight if I have to let Audible give me money.
Man, I would read some comedian's autobiography if I was able to get the
Right.
money. The money. Any last thoughts on this film? Because I don't want to give I want to give a full grade to the franchise. But you know what? We can give a full grade to this film. Out of 0 to 4 exploding blood balloons, what would you give it? Chapter 1.
4. Like, honestly, 4 out of 4, 5 out of 5. However you want to say it. It's great. It's
Ooh.
fantastic. I think it's really a classic movie now to watch.
So you pretty much scored this higher than the miniseries.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I'm with it. You know what?
Miniseries has its own special place, but this is
This is well done.
exactly.
This is very well done. And I'm right there with you. Like, I would give it a 4.5 out of 5. Only because the jump scare mechanic kind of, once I noticed it, I was kind of taken out of the immersion.
Oh, that's fair.
But other than that, and that's a whole point off for me, 5 points off for me, mind you, only because, and the thing is that the miniseries didn't have jump scares because the jump scare really didn't exist in a weird way back then, not the way it exists now. But the portrayal of the characters, the portrayal of Pennywise, the scenery, Derry as a character into itself, felt very lived in. It felt very haunting, fleshed out. The haunted house is just one of the best set pieces
It really,
of
truly,
the last 5 years. You know,
Bly House or Bly Manor or something like that.
Bly Manor. We're
Wait,
not going to
is
talk
it
about
Bly?
the haunting of Bly Manor.
Oh, God damn it, I am.
Mm-hmm.
Son of a bitch, I really am.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Well, that's embarrassing.
I've embarrassed myself. Yes. So I would definitely recommend this film. I would say definitely it's not leaps and bounds better than the miniseries. It stands on its own 2 feet. And as a isolated in a white room film, this is a very good horror film to watch.
Neibolt House, I think. Neibolt?
Nibbled.
Anyway. Yeah, would recommend. Go on, watch this movie, enjoy yourselves.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We have completed part 2 of the MOT-Introspective of Stephen King's It. Our conclusion, our final episode, we will be reviewing It Chapter 2, featuring the adults. And then we'll be giving our complete synopsis of the entire series and giving the entire franchise a grade from 0 to 5. That's a recommend that you even bother with the mythos of It. And I think that's going to be a very interesting conversation at the end of all things. I'm very excited to record that episode. I'm very excited for you to listen to this episode because I feel like this is a good one. We got a hot one. Austin, where can we find you?
You can find me at Austin Aussie on Twitter, on Twitch, and all the other fun little things, my little gremlins and witches and druids of Halloween, I guess, because people still believe druids are satanic for some stupid reason.
Well, what's Stonehenge then?
Sexy.
It is statuesque. If you like this interesting
You
conversation,
stupid son of a bitch.
if you like this brand of comedy, you can always visit our website, which is mastersofthenerdiversecast.com. We have over 200 archived episodes with yours truly in Austin and a ton of our friends talking about the nerdiest stuff on the planet. You can also visit our Patreon, which is Patreon.com/MOTN. If you want to support the channel monetarily and give us the monies. But if you want to support us non-monetarily, you can always comment on our post, subscribe to our channels, and leave comments on our content. Because as you know, feedback's important. Are we doing great? Yes, no, maybe so. Just let us know. bars. And if this is your first time listening to the channel, this is your first episode of Masters of the Nerdiverse, I would like to wave at you and say hi through the internets and welcome you to the Nerdiverse. I've, of course, been your host, Mike G.
And I have been your also host, Austin.
And we will always ask you to open your mind, Quaid. Open your mind.